Join us today on Beyond the Lair, where we have a conversation with Corey Janvier, owner of Cedar Brush Site Services and also a contestant of the Bears Lair Season 2. Corey talks about starting a company just 3 years ago with just $400 and a staff of 2 to right now having 100 employees in 3 different divisions, and how important relationship building really is. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Lair. We are very thrilled to have a friend of ours, good friend of ours, Corey Janvier. And he is also a contestant of Season 2 for the Bears Lair. And we are thrilled to have you today. My name is Gina Jackson Montgomery. Would like to introduce my co-host.
I'm Dean Montgomery. It's great to see you, Corey.
Yeah, always good to see you as well.
And welcome. Corey Janvier is a member of the Prairie, Dene First Nation in Alberta and owner of Cedar Brush Indigenous Site Services and Janitorial. Cedar Brush provides essential services such as commercial cleaning, Indigenous home care, property management, and cleaning solutions to Indigenous communities, organizations, elders, families, and individuals to Metro Vancouver and beyond. Yeah. Welcome to our show today, Corey.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for having me, and I've been looking forward to this podcast. It's I think my 4th one, and I definitely enjoy them. So.
Excellent. Well, we have heard some of your podcasts, and it's old hat to you now. So thanks for being with us today. For our listeners and our viewers, let's learn a little bit about you. If you haven't heard of Corey, he has a huge social media presence. He gives back to community and really exemplifies exactly what entrepreneurism is for us as Indigenous people. But let's go back in time to humble beginnings of where you grew up and how you started your business acumen and if entrepreneurism has always been a part of your spirit.
Yeah, I think it definitely has. So again, thanks for the introduction. My name is Corey Janvier from Chipewyan, Prairie, Dene First Nation, which is in northern Alberta by Fort McMurray. So when we always introduce ourselves and where we're from, it helps ground us as well as honor those people from the nations that we're from. So, I think we as Indigenous people like to open conversations of where we're from or who our families are, who our moms are, who our dads are, and really make those connections. So, that's how I like to open it. And I grew up in Fort McMurray. I didn't grow up in Prairie. My dad is from Prairie, and my mom is from Edmonton, and with Scottish background. So great grandparents came from Scotland and settled in Grassland, so kind of in between Edmonton and Fort McMurray. Growing up in Fort McMurray, my dad worked at Syncrude for 37 years, and is now a retired children's author. That's what he does on his spare time in retirement, is writes children's books on Dene tales and about Dene life and about him growing up. So he grew up on the reserve, and right after high school, did some training programs in the oil sands as they were starting to boom back then in the late 70s, and became a welder, and then went on to project management and eventually got seconded to our First Nation to develop a big industrial park and help support some of the new businesses going on for our First Nation. My mom was stay-at-home mom because I have 5 brothers, Bill, Ryan, Brent, Christopher, Eric. So my mom was a stay-at-home mom until we were a bit older and not causing too much ruckus around the home and kind of able to take care of ourselves. So eventually she went and did some training at Kiana College in the prenatal, postnatal kind of Head Start field. And then she started working at the Children's Center, and that was kind of one of my jobs in the summer, was working at the Children's Center doing youth camps stuff like that. But Fort McMurray was a great place to grow up. I went and visited some friends in the interior BC that I grew up with a couple weeks ago in LA. And yeah, we were just talking about like how close we still are and how Fort McMurray was prior to the boom. It was a nice small town. A lot of, there's a lot of diversity as well in people. Like you have some of my friends, their family are from like Samoans. You have Greeks. You have African Americans, Chinese, Japanese. So I had friends growing up where their parents came from all over the world. So it was great to grow up in Fort McMurray.
So what was the population back then before the boom happened, do you think?
It wasn't that big. Like you kind of had your three pockets, but I would say in that 30,000 maybe. I should look back at that, but growing up it wasn't that big. Like you could go to a grocery store downtown and you'd know a lot of people there.
Yeah, it was still a good size. I was in Ucluelet in Port Alberni, and you're talking some smaller towns.
And sports. I played a lot of sports growing up, and that's how you got to know so many different youth and my friends today that are from different parts of the city. Whereas you look in a big city here in Vancouver, it's if you're from Burnaby, you only play in Burnaby and maybe a certain part of Burnaby because it's so big. Whereas there, you definitely got to meet a lot of people and different backgrounds. So growing up, it was a great place to grow up.
Great, right on. When did you realize that you had this entrepreneurial spirit?
Yeah. So
was it young or was it?
Yeah, it was really young actually. I want to say when I was about maybe 10, 12. I don't remember the age, but it was definitely under 12 before I could shovel driveways. When I kind of started doing labor work around the community. So I'll tell a little story. My mom always gets a kick out of it, but our neighbors had a gravel driveway. So as a kid, we didn't really have Nintendo or no computers back then. We had TV, but 12 channels, but you're not really watching TV back then. No Netflix, no internet, no streaming. So as youth, you guys as well, we spent a lot of time outside with our friends or just riding bikes around the neighborhood or just really spending a lot of time outside. And if none of my friends are around, I'd just go to the next door neighbor's driveway and just start picking rocks and looking for nice ones and go home and wash them up. And this is probably, I would say, is maybe a little under 10 or something. Then I'd just go around the neighborhood and try to sell the rocks for a quarter and just go to my friends' parents' houses and neighbors that I knew and just try to sell them nice shiny rocks for a couple $, or 25 cents or 50 cents. And I'd take that and go bike ride to the store because you could buy 5-cent candy. So you can, if you get $1, that's a pretty good little bag of candy or chips for $1 or 75 cents. And then as the Sears catalog, the Christmas catalog comes out, and as a kid, you're ripping through there looking for what you want for Christmas and circling stuff. And I found a rock tumbler. It's like, oh yeah, I can make some jewelry. I can make some keychains. And I ended up doing maybe a couple tumbles of rocks and making some jewelry stuff and keychains. And I guess people probably felt sorry for me trying to sell these rocks, hustling, these little poor looking jewelry. So, and I guess around that age started cutting the grass for my dad and shoveling the driveway. And me and my buddies, as we kind of got into that preteen, 12, 13, would, summertime we would cut the grass. In wintertime up in Fort McMurray, it's definitely a longer winter than summer. So you'd shovel snow, and it's you'd make pretty good money doing that, especially with Fort McMurray being the town that it was, with people working day shift, night shift. So the guys that are working nights just wanted to get home and eat and spend time with family. So you'd notice the people that work night shift with their grass was a little longer. Driveways were kind of compacted down, weren't clean. So we'd go approach them, and they kind of get us on a little schedule and give us a prepayment up front for the month. And as a kid, at $100 a client, that's pretty good. So me and my buddy would do that, make little flyers. dad owned a drywall company. His dad was from Santiago, Chile. So he had a nice photocopier machine in the basement, which would be the size of this room. And we would draw little flyers with markers and, we can cut your grass in this pattern, try to make it fancy, and gave our prices on there. And yeah, that was kind of my first entrepreneurial spirit was, just doing stuff that you really don't see youth do today and take advantage of it, especially in Fort McMurray with people working all different hours. And we were able to capitalize on that. And with a close-knit neighborhood, had a pretty good clientele list, and probably did that till I got a bit older, where I could work in a workplace and then kind of learn new skills from there. So,
excellent. So how old are you?
I am 44, turning 45 in October. So I got 3 children, 24, 22, and 17, and 1 grandchild, and he just turned 1. So he's about a year and 2 months right now. So.
Wow, Grandpa Corey.
Wow.
Yeah, Papa.
Dene and I were just talking, as you know, good friends with Dave Tuckerow, and what a mentor and what a phenom he is.
Yeah.
And talking about starting a family so young right now, because his daughter just turned 3 yesterday. Dene and myself, our youngest turns, but when he graduates, I'm going to be 60. Dene will be 58. And it's really interesting. The reason why I asked your age is because I think our viewers and our listeners right now, if you're in your 40s or your 50s, and even into your mid 30s, those are the days when we used to have paper routes, where we used to be able to go from house to house and mow lawns and shovel and make jewelry and really show some initiative in becoming an entrepreneur, because we didn't have the luxuries of our family, particularly when you're talking about your mother with 5 boys. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The luxury of having vacations and being able to get what you want or what you need.
Yeah.
So developing that entrepreneur spirit really early. Where did you go from there? From becoming an entrepreneur to actually working in industry where you were allowed to be working, and what put you in that industry?
Yeah, so in Fort McMurray, I my best friend Andreas, his dad Al, used to drive bus and drive workers to site, and worked at some car dealerships, and then he had an opportunity to buy a convenience store in kind of downtown and in the towers, where it houses a lot of workers that are coming in from out of town. So I think I was about 16 then. So he is from Greece, Al Kitsinellis, and he ended up buying a convenience store, and it was pretty good. So I just started working there with Andreas. Me and him would work together. And as I got comfortable, kind of started working by myself, and you do like sandwich prep, and you had like where you can make sandwiches for guys to take, and kind of like fruit. It was almost like a little mini grocery store. And then a new development popped up right in the middle of downtown. McDonald's was right next to it, and then he opened Flavors, which was like a convenience store, but had like 32 different types of ice cream and 16 flavors of slush, and sold your usual convenience store items. So I really learned a lot from him on running a business and payroll and presentation, right, of your store. If you go to some convenience stores, say the product's not fronted, you go to the pop cooler, you're trying to grab a Gatorade or something, and it's way in the back. And just the cleanliness of the store. So really learned how to run a business by working there. And that was like 5 days a week I was working there. But yeah, it was great. And I really took the pride in that to make sure the store looked good. Because if it looks good, it's going to sell, right? Because if it's not displayed properly, or if you don't have your high margin items at the front, right at the till, kind of your visuals need to be there. So really on how to operate a business, I learned a lot from Al, and it was a great experience. And at the same time, I would work with like the child and youth type work, and that was my first career. So kind of towards the end of high school, I was working before school care, just working at like a after school and before school, and then after that, I'd work at Flavors until like 9:00, and then go hang out with buddies all night and do our thing that teenagers would do, and then after high school and graduated, moved to Edmonton and started my career in the human services. So did a social work diploma with Musqueam Cultural College, so an Indigenous social work, and ended up moving to BC after I graduated to start my BSW, my Bachelor of Social Work. But eventually stopped that because I had an opportunity to work back in Fort McMurray with my First Nation to do some like business development and community development, and the salary I was making there was almost double than what I would have made at social work. So it was a no-brainer, and that's kind of the start of my career in the industry. So in the oil and gas industry, Fort McMurray, which I've now made a pretty good name for myself over the years. So, and then I guess I started doing that in about 2009 with my cousin Sherry's company. I guess my First Nation and my cousin Sherry's company. She started, again, an entrepreneur, started with a couple of laborers, then got into a water truck, then got into small equipment. And then she ended up selling her company to North American, which was a big civil construction company that she built up. So I helped her kind of get that going. Then I helped Dave Tucker's son with his company, Summit Civils, with his company, kind of doing a lot of the business development. And we ended up building that company quite big, from 0 employees with 3 of us, really getting things going. Started a gravel pit with Stad Oil. And I want to say from 2012 when we started to about 2015, we were doing about $50 million a year with that company. So it was a pretty expansive growth. And then from there, we ended up that eventually went into Ktunaxa Nation with Kettle River Contracts. So there's some name changes there, and Ktunaxa Nation bought the company, and I eventually went on my own. And that was kind of when my second phase of my entrepreneurial journey started. Okay. Was kind of doing my consulting, and eventually Cedar Brush showed up. So.
Yeah, and I'd like to stop you there for a second because it's we've all had the opportunity to work together. Yeah. And for our listeners that know Corey and those that don't know Corey, is that he's a master networker. You are a master networker, and but you work so hard at it. Like what we always recognize is that you're up early. You're hitting emails, right? Yeah. As soon as it's appropriate time to make phone calls, you're on the call. You're going out every afternoon. You've really taken pride in it, and it's why you've done so well. But it seems so natural to you. You're always very calm. I've never seen you stressed once in my life.
No, I think somebody asked me that the other day. Like, do you ever get mad? I was like, no, not really. There's not a whole lot to get mad at these days.
So do you think is that just a natural attribute? Do you think it's social work background?
I think it's my dad is the same way, and my grandpa is the same way as well. So I think it's just the way I was taught. You learn from your parents, and I think that's a big thing. And it's almost like I'm a whiskey jack, right? When you're in the jack pines in northern Alberta, the whiskey jack, the birds, they just always come visit you, right? So my role, I think I carved out, and what I call it is a professional visitor, right? It doesn't seem like I'm doing a business development role, because the connections and the friendships and what I've done over the years, it does come natural, and it doesn't feel like I have to plan the meeting. Okay, I got to talk about this. So I go stop by, visit, make the phone call, really talk. Not a lot about business at the beginning. It's conversations about family or golf, and then within that conversation, the work stuff comes out, and it's natural, and it's something I enjoy, and I did it with the company that we all work together, and kind of towards the the end of the pandemic, which we were right in the heart of it, working together, and we were able to be successful working through that pandemic together. But towards the end, that's where Cedar Brush came. So
excellent, and I think that for all of our listeners and viewers, the perseverance of being an entrepreneur is undeniable.
Yeah.
But again, you are the master of relationship building. If anybody wants to know anybody, if you don't know them, you're going to connect them with somebody that can help. And I think that's where we're going to start talking about Indigenous entrepreneurism to begin with. And that is really providing a solution for a problem that you see within a community, whether it's a community, a regional, national, or global level.
Yeah.
And whether it's helping other entrepreneurs, whether it's providing procurement and jobs for the community, and whether it's providing a service that seems like just a service, right? So when we think of Cedar Brush and you're talking about it, I think our viewers and listeners are going to be incredibly impressed by that you've built companies from the ground up that have been $50 million companies. Yeah. You've started Cedar Brush, I believe, in 2021.
Yeah, 2021.
2021, during a pandemic when most things the whole world is up in the air.
Yeah.
And you've had so many relationships. And tell us a little bit about Cedar Brush, because I know it's janitorial, I know it's site services, but you have got a social work background about it, and it's about connection. It's not just about service. It's not just about relationship building in respect of the clients.
Yeah,
it's about building a business and providing a service and providing that social interaction.
I think the word you're trying to find is it's a social impact company, right? It's not just a janitorial company that comes, cleans the office, and takes off. So Cedar Brush, the name, the Cedar Brush. So when I was doing some social work in the Chipewyan or the Stolo Nations area, we would do cedar baths or river dips. So you take cedar branches and as you're doing your river dip, you'd brush yourself off. So that's where the name Cedar Brush came from. And it started as we were coming out of the pandemic. I was reaching out to all the Indigenous organizations in Metro Vancouver to do disinfectant spraying, and that was kind of really the start. They're just doing disinfecting the offices. People are trying to go back, and the first one responded right away, and Maureen Lorette with Metro Vancouver Aboriginal Executive Council, got to give her a shout out because she was our first client. And we did the disinfectant spraying, and she said, "Oh, can you guys clean the office?" Yeah, we can do that. So I went on Craigslist, their Facebook marketplace, and looked for a little janitorial setup. I was golfing in Kamloops anyways sometime during that week, and I found one in Kamloops for $400. So it was like a janitorial cart and some mop handles and just a bunch of random stuff, and it was all brand new, and that was kind of the original investment. And we signed a 1-year contract doing just office janitorial twice a week. She liked our services, so I got a little company profile made up. It was kind of entry level, and got my brother to throw a 1-pager together. She sent it all out to different organizations, and then it just kind of kept growing month after month. It went from $500-$600 a month to where we're at now. I think my peak is $185,000. And then we're at 1.5 million in revenue. So It really just started with office janitorial, and then site services came, where an organization, Kevin Eaton from Luma, give him a shout out because he started our site service division, asked, "Hey, can you guys do junk removal? We have a building downtown. It's a social housing building, and they just accumulate tons of metal, tons of junk, and old furniture that's broke. It just piles up in a room. And I have a pickup truck, rented a trailer, and then started doing that. And then the jobs got bigger and bigger, so ended up getting into bin trucks and 25-yard bins. And this year we did our second consecutive spring cleanup for Squamish Nation, which we did every household. And then the third division is Indigenous home care, so that's providing culturally and compassionate care for families, elders, people that are dealing with health issues or involved with the Ministry of Child and Family Development. So I have, I don't know how many clients in there, and then within their clients, we're definitely over 100 clients served, and that would be elders, families, individuals. And that's just your daily house cleaning, laundry, food prep, if we need to run and grab something for them. So it's more the non-medical. Eventually we'll get into medical care as I grow out that division. I partnered with NVIT. I wrote out a 5-week certificate program. They accepted it, so we'll be starting in September our first Indigenous home care certificate program, which will then allow me to acquire team members that are fully certified, learn about, I guess, your cultural safety, Indigenous health, proper cleaning techniques, so it's a pretty detailed 5-week course. And then that goal of doing that is to be able to expand into different regions with Indigenous home care. So those are kind of my 3 main divisions. And then Indigenous staffing, it's really just providing janitorial for a lot of the housing providers downtown east side. Provide some building managers for BC Indigenous Housing. Brenda Knights, she's a wonderful lady and has done some great things with that organization. It's been a fast growing company, and have really the division set, and the next goal is expansion into different cities now. So.
Yeah, I saw you the day you bought your first vacuum. It feels like yesterday. The growth you've had at a grassroots level is phenomenal. So congratulations.
I think the growth is because of all of my employees are 100% Indigenous. Our clients are 95% Indigenous. And I guess I have some employees that their children are Indigenous. So I really keep everything 100% Indigenous. And that's been a big key factor in growing my business in that region, or I guess the areas that I'm working in, with all the nations in Metro Vancouver, all the social housing providers, Vancouver Coastal Health, Fraser Valley Health, different divisions within Vancouver Coastal Health, social service agencies, the Ministry of Child and Family Development. So it's, I think that's a big key to success, is that 100% Indigenous. And there's opportunities out there to look at government contracts for big buildings, and those are achievable, but to get there, you really got to build that manpower and do a lot of that training. So again, there's opportunities outside of the social side that I'm working on. So.
Yeah, it's such a common theme that we come across on the podcast, that you think, where, I mean, Dave Tuckero says it, so many people say it, is that when it's local and it's Indigenous, you're going to find the best workforce that you can.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, of course, for our listeners and our viewers, he is not just limited to clients that are Indigenous. So if you're a big company and you want that procurement, and you want somebody who is obviously very authentic and very pragmatic about what they're doing, please reach out to Corey, and we'll get his information at the end. My question is, and Dave Tuckero, we were talking about this because, as we know, he's a huge trailblazer. Who's your mentor? Who are your mentors that you go to for advice, or you're scaling up at an expansive, rapid rate right now?
Yeah.
Who do you go to for advice?
There's a few people that I look to. Obviously, for advice, you always go to your parents and talk to them, and my wife, and she's great. Kind of keeps me almost grounded, because sometimes I'm trying to do this, trying to do that, and I think by doing that and keeping me balanced, it really kept the company in a good area of growth. My lawyer, Ryan Leachy, kind of, just for advice when dealing with new clients, contracts. Some are big, some are small. So really just learning from him on the contract side. and I would say other Indigenous entrepreneurs like Dave Tuckrow, and I had a really good platform to learn from in Fort McMurray with all of the Indigenous entrepreneurs, like my cousin Sherry and her company, Dene Sky and her new company, Spear Boreal, and Dave with his multiple companies, and Dave Boucher and members from my nation. There's so many entrepreneurs that started when the boom happened, and to learn from them and from the different organizations out there that provide the supports, like the CCAB. I think they changed their name
CCIB
recently.
now.
CCIB.
Yes.
NABA, which is up in Fort McMurray, that they're like a business association. So really utilizing those as well as guidance and to get advice, and even on the Bears Lair, the amount of the sponsors that supported us after the fact, and the group as a whole getting together, what are their failures, what are their successes. So really starts family and then kind of expands out into a wider circle, which then goes nationally, right, with the contestants on Bears Lair. So
let's talk about your experience on Bears Lair.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, and that was a labor of love. And Dene and I are entrepreneurs, and you just go in with your heart and your passion, and everything else you're hoping catches up to that. But filming season 1, great. I'm sure you watched season 1 because I know that we talked about it before we did season 1. And being a contestant in season 2, what was your experience with that? And this isn't a live podcast, but you are on tonight.
Yeah.
And we were really, really excited to have you on the show tonight. And what was your experience?
The experience was, it was a first for me to be in like a production like that. The set was unreal. The production was fantastic. And the whole process, for me, I didn't want to have a script. When I was doing my MBA, which I just recently finished, when I was doing presentations or group work, or when I tried to read from a script, it didn't feel natural. I was really choppy. So I just wanted to talk about myself and my business and how it started and what we provide and the social impact of that. So really speaking from the heart, I found it went so well, rather than trying to be too scripted. And I think that worked for me, and I think that really shows in the work that I do with my I guess consulting business development. It's the same thing. It's not off a script. It's not too formal. It's not too structured. It's pretty open. So
what did you find your experience working with the other entrepreneurs? Because Dene and I strategically had planned this in respect of contestants. That there's many differences between other entrepreneur shows, is that it's about co-opetition.
Yeah.
We strategically wanted to have entrepreneurs that were non-competitive in respect of industry and sales and products. What did you think about working with the entrepreneurs? Because you were all together about a week before we actually got all of the judges together and we started the actual production of it all. Yeah. And you were able to meet some of the other contestants.
It was awesome, especially with the filming where we had, I forget her name, but we kind of sat at a round table with the entrepreneurs, and that was our first filming part, and you could tell some were nervous. So
Wendy.
So I was really comfortable talking. I kind of enjoyed helping some that were a little nervous and getting them in the conversation, and but learning about all of their businesses and what they did. And it wasn't even in full detail. So as I watch the show, I definitely will learn more about them and about their why, right? Because it was so fast and everybody's kind of focused on meeting everybody and about their, I guess, their time in front of the Bears. So, and that's one thing as I watch the episodes, I learned so much more about what they do and their why. And it was an amazing experience. And yeah, every entrepreneur out there, if you think you're too small or you don't think you would have the opportunity, it's definitely apply for the next season, because there's going to be season 3, 4, 5, 6. It's such an amazing platform. And then there's others out there like Powwow Pitch. CCIB just announced another kind of pitch formatted competition or whatever. But yeah, I think being on the Bears Lair also helped me as I'm talking to people out there about my business, and really focusing on the strong points right off the bat is nice. And because you only have a certain amount of time, not 45 minutes like we do here, where I can talk 10 minutes about my business. Really, you got to take that elevator pitch, and you got 30 seconds to a couple minutes with somebody, right? So that on the show, that put that in perspective as well. So
yeah, and I think that on the show as well, it's what's really interesting is, Bright Light, right? They're the production company, and amazing. They're top notch, as good as you get. And even for all of us, just seeing so many people working around the set, and it's such a grand scale. It's nerve-wracking.
It's big. Yeah, definitely bigger. My brother Eric, he's in film production, but I've only seen the finishing pieces of his work and never seen him working. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I didn't realize how much goes into it. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit. Thank you for all of that. Tell us a little bit about growing up with 5 brothers, and what did they do? Are you all entrepreneurs?
Yeah, it's a kind of a mix. Growing up with 5 brothers, it was, we kind of all had our own friends, but we all hung out together. It was pretty interesting because we're all so close in age. But I guess I'll start with Bill. He is an RCMP officer right now, and it's Hobima. I don't know I forget the new name of it now, but he's an RCMP officer.
Yeah.
And then me and him were pretty close as we were going through our college days, and he was kind of doing his policing diploma and Indigenous policing. He got hired by the Blood Tribe and then eventually went over to RCMP. The next brother, Ryan, so I'm kind of going oldest to youngest. Ryan is an entrepreneur. He does marketing websites for nonprofits and Indigenous communities, and that's kind of his area, and he's been doing it since 2004 maybe. He's kind of amazing. Been on his own. Mm-hmm. And then Brent started off in like radio production or music production, kind of like what we're doing here. And then he ended up going into my background, so he does a lot of family service work and traditional work, runs sweats for family organizations. He's like a family worker, helps families stay together and brings the youth out to do traditional stuff. And then Christopher he went to U of A and is a policy analyst, kind of does policy stuff, health policy, and kind of like a desk guy. So he works for a nation in Alberta. And then Eric, right out of high school, was always involved in filming and stuff like that. So he went to New York Film Academy and did film production, and he's done multiple films. He's working on some stuff for Netflix right now that he wrote and is producing. And he's done some great cultural films as well. I think one was released a couple years ago. But I'll get that over to you. It's really good.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
And outside of work, which was not a lot of your family, of course, you mentioned that, but you're also, you're a good golfer.
Yeah.
You know that. And so everyone listening, any companies listening, if you need a ringer for your team at your next tournament, you call Corey. And you'll get connected to a lot of people too. Yeah,
no, it's great. Kind of started off with the conference season, and that goes right into the golf tournament season, and kind of been traveling around BC right now to different First Nation tournaments and fundraisers for Squilax, or I guess Little Shuswap. Yep. Had a fire in their community last year, so I was there for that and did some sponsorship, and they just keep coming every week.
How many rounds a year do you get in?
I have a membership at Bowen Island, so if anybody wants to join me, it's a nice day trip out there. Take the little 20-minute ferry. But I'm definitely since May over 20 rounds for sure. Yeah, beginning of May.
And Dave Tuckero said in our last podcast, practice, practice, practice. That's what Tiger Woods, you just practice every day and you just get better at what you do.
Yeah.
I do have a question because you are very family oriented and your mom and your dad must be very proud of all of you. What a great job that they've done as parents to have boys like you that have accomplished so much at such a young age already. How do you incorporate your family values and your cultural values into your business with your employees?
I think you get like the respect, the honesty, the humility, a lot of that. I guess that's kind of the 7 Indigenous teachings, right? You kind of take that into business and really understand what your team members are going through. I have a family right now with a newborn child. They're living in a hotel right now, so I've been working with them to get them housing. So I have one of my employees, he got pretty sick. He's Lorette. Fantastic guy. So he is now our kind of, he's our team member resource worker. So that's the role I got for him because when he got sick, he really couldn't do the cleaning and help us out in some of the jobs. So got him to start planning our little events and our team member barbecues, our Christmas parties, and now he's creating a resource guide, which is resources for spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional. So everything from gym passes to bus passes to where sweats are, what the Indigenous Day events are. So he's our resource worker. And then me and him work together to support some of our team members get into housing. I just wrote another letter this morning for, one of my guys was part-time. Now he's full-time and trying to get out of his mom's place because, he's kind of temporary and he's looking at getting to housing. So with the resource worker, that really helps support our team members.
I think that's the secret to any successful company. I know that Dene and we talk about Alltech a lot on our podcast, and we used to work there, and it's an absolutely great company. And Daniel Boyd, who I'm going to put my hands up to right now, he was our Indigenous coordinator. So when Alltech was doing work up at Site C, he was boots on the ground working with Soto and Blueberry and Halfway and a lot of the nations up there with some of the employees that were hired for that. And it's really important that you hear the voice and you have somebody to represent because there's a disconnect, particularly when you're not Indigenous in industry, about our protocols. If somebody passes in the community, the whole community shuts down. Different holidays and Indigenous Day and Indigenous Month and September 30th and things like that. So I think it's really important to have that point person. And can anyone on your team approach you? I mean, you're the most approachable person in the world, definitely. But I know that let's talk about your employee retention because you've been amazing. You've had people since the very beginning of your business.
Yeah, the retention, it's been pretty good. I think I've had to let go 4 people in the past 2.5 years or so. It's the retention's been pretty good. A lot of my employees are part-time. They have kids that are in school, so they work in the middle of the day and then they're back when their kids get home. So it works really great with them. I pay them well, which is another good thing. They're not getting minimum wage because you can't live on minimum wage
not here
in BC or anywhere.
And you shouldn't.
Now. No. So the pay is good. I think I'm probably going to do another little pay raise with some of our team members. And it's I think just doing that and listening to them and having that constant communication. Our team events, our barbecues, Christmas parties are all family orientated, right? So we invite everybody right from their parents to aunties and uncles to kids, friends if they want to come to our barbecues. So the invite's there for you guys if you want as well. We usually do them at Trout Lake. I think we got one on the 2nd of July or something like that coming up.
So nice.
Yeah.
Do you have any final tips that you'd give to entrepreneurs that are looking to have growth or do things the right way? What really resonates with you that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think really have make sure you're ready yourself to do it, and that's being balanced, that's being healthy, and have a calendar on your phone and make sure you live by that, because if it's not in there, you definitely miss it. So, and utilize the network around you, and grow your network to help grow your business and grow yourself personally. Because there's so many individuals out there that you pass on a daily, weekly, monthly, that can support your business, support yourself. And then in turn, you're doing the same to them, just like us, right? We're always crossing paths. Say, oh, who do you know in this area? Or do you know this individual? I think that's a big thing, is utilize your network and make sure you're healthy, because you can burn yourself out quick. So.
That's excellent advice. And if for our listeners and viewers, if you are looking for a position to work and join a incredible company that's authentic and cultural and progressive and is growing, and also if you are interested in hiring your services, how can people get a hold of you?
You can just go to our website, is cedarbrush.ca. Find me on LinkedIn and you'll see stuff there nonstop. Just Corey Janvier. And then email just Corey@cedarbrush.ca. And looking to expand our services out into the major projects around Vancouver. Graham Construction, actually, we started some work with them.
Great company.
Doing some just office janitorial construction sites. But that gets my employees exposed to other projects, right? Not just social housing and working within the nations, but getting out to construction sites. So more training to be able to work on this. So that's obviously growth outside of Vancouver is the next goal, and into different areas of work, which would be what we know, and that's the oil and gas industry.
Well, we know it won't take you long.
No, I see a future Dave Tuckero of this generation right in front of us right now. So thank you so much for being with us today, Corey. It's always a pleasure and an honor to have you in our company ever, because we know how busy you are. So thanks for taking the time with us today.
All right, thanks, buddy.
Seeing you.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Lair. Please follow us, download this episode, and follow us on social media on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok.